Hello and welcome to our fourth session in our second chapter on object mode. And in this session, we are going to build a real workable project, create a simple animation, and thereby understand how to deal with primitives in a much better way and also explore the select menu. So to begin with, this time we are going to start with a new file. I am going to click somewhere to close the splash screen. Always remember to make it a practice to first save your project and then start your work. So here in this case, now I will come to File, Save As, and in my folder where I am placing all my work, that is in Satvik Blender Works 1 object mode, I am going to give this file the name as 4 Chariot and I am going to click Save. Now I am going to select this cube, press X and press delete. Now I am going to start by creating a primitive, and the primitive that we are going to use is the keyboard shortcut is Shift plus A, Mesh, and I am going to add a torus. Remember, in Blender, whenever we add any object in its world origin, it will always be facing towards the top view. Means if I press 7 and come here, you can see this will be added in the top view, and if I come to the front view, this will always be in the side view. Now I will immediately open this adjust last operation parameter here, and the very first thing I will do is along the x-axis I am going to rotate this by 90 degrees, and after rotating it I will set its major radius, it is set to 1. I am going to set it to 0.5 and I am going to set the minor radius now. I will set the minor radius to 0.1, and now if I zoom in, I have a structure like a tire, and even in the major segments instead of 48 I will make this 32, and minor segment I will leave it as it is. I am going to come over here and I will first rename this as front left tire. And one thing as we are building we are going to explore is this front left tire is an object. Object is a container, and if you open this, inside the object you are seeing the geometry data which is torus. So this data you can see it here, and also in the properties if you come to object data here you can see this, and in this case I am also going to rename this as mesh underscore tire, and then I am going to close this. I will come over here plus Shift plus A and I am now going to create a cylinder. Now in this cylinder I am going to set its radius to around I will set it to 0.03. Then the length of this cylinder I will set it to 1 meter, and the number of vertices instead of 32 I will keep it to 16. Now I am going to call this object here as front left tire spoke 1. So I will rename it as I created, and if you open this, inside that you have a name as cylinder. The data is cylinder. I will double click it and I am going to name this as mesh cylinder. Now the next job is I want 2 more spokes over here. So to create it, in Blender you have a feature called as duplicate, and this is present in object menu. You already have transform which we have used, move, rotate and scale, and other transforms we are going to come to that later, and right now I am now going to concentrate on these 2 menu items, duplicate object and duplicate linked. Now what is the difference is, duplicate object the keyboard shortcut is Shift plus D. Say for example I have selected this tire and bringing the mouse in the 3D area I will press Shift plus D, press R and I am going to rotate it along the y axis by 60 degree and press enter. So now what happened is you have got a new object here, and in this case what has happened is the object data of front tire spoke 1 and this duplicated object are different, meaning that now if I select this spoke 1 and if I select this mesh, I will press tab and come into edit mode. Press S and Z and scale it along the Z axis. Now what is happening is only this object is scaling, whereas the duplicated object is not getting affected. So now I will press Ctrl Z and undo it. I will press tab and come back into object mode. Then I will come back here to this newly duplicated object and I will press delete del on my keyboard to remove it. I am going to select this, and this time I am going to go into object and choose duplicate linked, and the keyboard shortcut for this is, instead of Shift D, I will press Alt plus D. And now if I press R, rotate along Y axis, I want it to rotate how much? 60 degree, and I will press enter. So I got this rotation. Now if you observe, although these two are two different objects, if you open both, the mesh data is the same, meaning that if I select this first mesh data and if I press tab and if I press S and Z and if I scale it, see the other mesh is also getting affected. I will press edit and undo. And now for this second object, I am going to call this as front tire spoke. I will give it the name as 2. And after this, I want whatever the last action I have done, it has to be repeated. So for that, if I press Shift R, right now it is not going to work because I did some other action before. So that's why what I will do is, right now I will delete this. I will come back to this front tire spoke 1 object. I will now press Alt plus D, R to rotate, Y, and I am going to type 60. And after I do this, in edit you have an option to repeat the last action, and the keyboard shortcut is Shift plus R. And if I press Shift plus R, you can now see one more object is created. So whatever you did in the previous step will be repeated. So now I will come back here and I will select the second one as spoke 2 and I will select the third one here as spoke 3. So I now have 3 spokes and a tire. If the tire moves off now and if I press G and try to move it, only the tire is moving. This should not happen. So for that I will right click it. Now going to select the 3 spokes here, 1, 2 and 3. And in the end I am going to select the tire. Now here in the list if you see, 3 of the objects are in dark orange and 1 object is in light orange. Whichever object is in light color, we call this as the active object, and right now the active object is front left tire. Now I am going to select this. I will come on to object and I am going to come to parent here and I will click on object, and the keyboard shortcut which we commonly use is Ctrl press P. You get this set parent to object, and if I click on this object or object keep transform, both works now. I will choose object keep transform, and now the 3 spokes went and sat inside this front left tire object. Means this is the parent and these 3 we call it as the child. So now if I select the front left tire and if I press G and move, the spokes will also move. I will right click and cancel it, but if I select only the spokes and move, the tire is not going to move because this is the child. I will right click and cancel it. And now I will come in the top view and I want this tire to be placed 1.5 meters to the left and 1.5 meters to the bottom. So for that I am going to now press G, make some movement like this. You will have this adjust last operation menu over here. I will come over here and in X I am now going to type minus 1.5 and in Y I am again going to type minus 1.5. I am going to select this tire and I am going to duplicate linked. Means I will press Alt D and I will duplicate it. Then I have to now move this along the Y axis. So for that I will press Y here and I will move it by 1.5 by plus 1.5, means if I move it by 3 meters and if I press enter, I have this tire placed on the other side. But now you have a problem. What has happened? Now when I selected and moved it, only the tire has moved. So now what I will do? I will go to edit and undo it. However, I wanted it to be moved with the spokes. And this is where the select menu comes into the picture. Now here, say to select all the objects in the scene, I will come into select and click on all. So the keyboard shortcut is A. If you want to select everything in your scene, just press A on your keyboard. The camera, light, front left tire, everything is selected now. And if you want to deselect everything, press Alt plus A and now everything is deselected. So this is what the first two menu represents. And now say for example I have selected one spokes and now I want to select everything except this spoke. That is, I want to invert my selection. Then press Ctrl plus I. Now everything except that spoke is selected. And if I again press Ctrl plus I, only the spoke is selected. So this is what we call as in the select invert. And then you have box select. To understand box select, say for example I will come into the front view, I will press Shift A and I will add another cylinder. So I will select this and I am now going to press Alt plus D and I am going to move it along the X axis by around 0.1 unit and I will press enter. Now I will press Shift plus R 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So one way of selection is I can select it as a box select. Just click and drag and whatever is there in the box, it gets selected. If I draw a box here, only this gets selected. If I draw a box here, only this is selected. If I draw a box here, only this is selected. So this is box select. And apart from box select, the other selection we have is circle select and the keyboard shortcut is C. Now I will click here to deselect everything and if I press C and if I move here, see you can see as I am moving, different objects are getting selected. See, you can see here. And if you want to deselect something, middle mouse click and select something that gets deselected. Middle mouse and click here, it gets deselected. And the area of this circle can be changed by rolling your mouse. If I roll it forward, it becomes small. If I roll it like this, it becomes big. So when you are doing the selection, you can control this circle size and left click to add to selection and middle click to subtract it from the selection. And when you are in circle select mode, sometimes what happens is for many Blender beginner users, by chance they would have pressed C on their keyboard and they will not know what to do as they are moving. So they cannot do any job as of now when you are in circle select. To come out of the circle select, you have to click the escape key on your keyboard. So when you press escape key on your keyboard, you will come out of this circle selection. Now after that, I have lasso select. You have the first option wherein I can just click and drag like this and I can make a lasso area, and whichever area is present inside that lasso will be selected. And in this lasso select, you have various options. Extend means I have already selected it. If I add one more selection, and the keyboard shortcut for this is you have to press Ctrl Shift and right click. You have to press Ctrl and right click. If you press Ctrl and right click, you can add it to the selection like this. So now if I press Shift, Ctrl and if I right click, I can remove some object from the selection. So you have in select, lasso select, extend and subtract. If you press Ctrl and drag right mouse, it will add to the selection. If you press Shift, Ctrl and drag right mouse, it will subtract to the selection. So you have to practice these things. If I make a selection like this in box, and you have other two options here, difference. Difference means now if I draw some area, whichever area the difference means except this, all other objects are selected. Now again I will select everything, and if I come back here in select, lasso select, and if I choose intersect, and if I drag a lasso like this, only the intersecting objects will be selected. And next you have select active camera. Active camera means in this case we have the camera here, and if I want to select it, come here, select active camera. See, the camera is now selected. I will press Shift A and I will add a cone, and I will reduce its size like this, and I will keep it somewhere here. Then I will press Alt plus D and duplicate it, press Z and move it to the top like this. Then in object you have a feature called mirror, and if I mirror it along X, it will be mirrored like this. I have the option here. In Y it will be mirrored like this, you cannot see it in Y, and in Z it will be reversed. So I have the reversed here, and now in this case when I select this and if I come to select mirror, the mirrored object will be selected. So right now I will select both these cones, press X and I will delete it. The next option you have here is select random. Select random means it randomly selects different objects. So or otherwise I can come here and I will deselect everything, and if I again click select random, it will randomly select the objects in your C. I will select all of this, press X and delete it. Now I will come to the selection process wherein when I selected this tire, I want the inside spokes also to be selected. You can do it in different ways. One way is come into the outliner, right click here and choose select hierarchy. Now everything inside it will be selected. This is one way. And the other way is you select this tire, and if you come into select, you have more less. You click on more, now the children will be selected. Now similarly, if I select this spokes, when I press Ctrl and number plus, actual parent is now selected. So if I press Ctrl pad minus, the parent will be deselected. Plus will select the parent, minus will deselect the parent. And now if I want to select the other, I can come over here and in select group, if I choose siblings, see all this will be selected. you have here to control this more and less, and apart from this you have parent and child. So now here I will select the spoke here, and then if I press the open square bracket, then its parent will be selected. Now the difference between more or less and here is, now only the parent is selected but the spokes is deselected. If I want to select all the children present in this parent tire, click on the closed square bracket, all the children will now be selected. So this is how we are going to do the selection. Now in this case, say I can select this tire, and now if I press Ctrl plus num plus, see all the children are now selected. If I come to the top view, press Alt D, and now I am going to move it along the Y axis by 3 units. I got another copy here. I will press enter, and now I will come over here and I am going to call this as front right tire, and I will open this, and inside this I am going to call the spokes as front right tire spoke 1. Then I will copy this name. I will then come over here, right click and paste it here and make it spokes 2. I will then paste it here and make this spokes 3. So I have created 2 tires now. And now for this tire to rotate, I need an axle, and to create this axle, now I want the axle to run exactly at the center of these 2 wheels. So now you can see this tire center is here, this tire center is here. So now I want my cylinder to align with this. So for that I will select this tire, press shift and select the other tire, and when both are selected, when I come into the top view, I will select both these tires now, and here in the option, in the top you have an option called as median point, means the 2 selections center point will be somewhere here, and now I want the cursor to come to this point. To move the cursor to this point, I have a command called cursor to selected, but I forgot where that command is. So instead of searching it here, I will press space bar and I will just type cursor to selected. See, you have cursor to selected, and when I click on this, see the cursor came exactly to the center of these 2 tires. And now I will press shift A, and I am now going to add a cylinder, and this cylinder, instead of it being straight, I want this to rotate along the x-axis by 90 degree, and after I rotate it by 90 degree, I will press 7 and come into the top view. The current length is 1 meter, I will change it to 3 meter. So it extended throughout these 2 tires, and I am going to call this cylinder as front axle, and I will open this, and for this mesh I am going to call this as mesh axle, and so now I have the axle. Now the thing here is, when this axle rotates, both these tires has to rotate. So now I will select this first tire, with shift pressed select the second tire, and finally select this axle, so that the axle is, front axle is the active element. And now press Ctrl press P and set parent to object, keep transform. You select this option. So now in the outliner you can see, now I have only front axle. Inside the front axle I have front left tire and front right tire, and in front left tire I have 3 objects, in front right tire I have 3 objects. So now this is how we are building the hierarchy, so that now if I select this axle and if I press rotate Y and if I rotate it, you can see the entire thing rotates at a time. So I will right click and cancel it. So now we have made our entire front axle ready. Now I will press 1 and come into the front view. I will slightly turn it like this in this view. Now in select, we have completed this more less parent child. Now say for example, I want to select all the child of this. I will come into over here, and if I click on select child, that is closed square bracket, see both the tires are now selected. But I want this to be selected along with this, means press Ctrl and press plus, tires are selected, again press plus, spokes are. I will press 7 and come into the front view. I will press Alt D and I am now going to move it along the x-axis. How much? -3. I will press enter. So -3 means it went here. So I will come into the last adjust here and I will make it 3. And I am going to call this as back axle. And then I am going to open this and I am going to call this front left tire as back left tire, and I am going to call this front right tire as back right tire, and then I will open this and I will give this the name as back right tire spoke 1. Then I will double click and copy this and paste it here, and I will make it 2. Then I will paste it here and I will make this 3. So this naming is very, very important. This makes your work easier. I will come into back left tire and I am going to rename this as back left tire spoke 1, and I am going to double click, copy this and paste it here. I will paste it and make it 2. I will paste it here and I will make it 3. So now we have the 2 spokes and 2 tires. So with this, we have covered most of this select tool. Now only thing is you have the option select all by type. If I click mesh, all the mesh in my scene will be selected. See, and if I click here and if I select all by type curve, all the curves will be selected. Similarly, if I select camera, all the camera in my scene will be selected. Select by type, if I select all lights will be selected. So like this, a particular type of object can be selected by using this select all by type. Then you have select group, and here you have the option. Say for example, I select this spoke here, and if I come here and if I choose select children, the keyboard object is Shift plus G. So if I press Shift G, you get this menu, and in this menu, if I click children, all the children are selected except the main. Now again I will click this, press Shift G, and if I click immediate children, only the tires will be selected. But if I select this tire and press Shift G and parent, now the axle will be selected. Now similarly, if I select spoke and come here and choose parent, see now this parent is selected. Now all these spokes are at the same level because all these 3 spokes are the child of this tire. Siblings means all the objects which are present at the same level are called as siblings. So if I select this, if I come into, I will again press Shift G, and if I choose siblings, all the siblings will be selected. So similarly, you have select type, so all are mesh, so all are selected. Then you have select collection, the entire collection will be selected. See, similarly you have select hook. These things I am going to explain it to you later. select, then you have pass, color, select, you can select it by color, keying set and light type. So you have all these options in select grouped. Then you have select linked. Select linked means if I select this and if I click on select linked and if I object data, whichever object has the same object data, everything will be selected. Now all these spokes has the same object data because we have duplicated using link. So if I come now here, select and choose select linked object data, all the spokes will be selected. If I select the tire and if I come to select group linked by object data, all will be selected. Similarly, you can select all with the same material, with the same instant collection, with the same particle system, with the same library, with the same library object data. You have all these options in linked. And finally, you have select pattern where you can do random selection and you can select it. Say for example, I want to select all objects with the name starting with C. I will press star, and if I press enter, see the only object starting with C is here camera. So this is about the select pattern. Now with this we have covered all the items in this select menu, and we have right now created two wheels. Now I will come back to file and save it, and in our next session we are going to build a chariot and animate it, and we are going to explore how to use these primitives and how to manipulate it, and this we will do it in the next session. Thank you.